to be a prince or a princess, not knowing what the gender would be, which would be different from protocol, and that he wasn't going to receive security.
What?
It was really hard.
Harry once believed that freedom was the ultimate answer to every dead end, but when he found himself standing at the very edge between life and death, he turned away not only from his father, not only from his wife, but also from all those who had offered him unconditional love. And among them all, only one person was allowed to enter that very brother he had once turned his back on. And it was that man who uttered a single sentence powerful enough to make Harry's heart nearly stop in that very instant. We may never truly know what William said. It could have been a heartfelt truth, a final warning, or perhaps a goodbye that needed no explanation. But one thing is certain, there are moments in life so defining that a single sentence spoken at the right time by the right person can change everything that lies ahead. And what about you? If you were in that moment, who would you choose? Someone who always stands by your side, who supports every decision you make even when you're walking into a mistake? Or someone willing to look you straight in the eye and tell you the truth that you're the one dragging yourself into the abyss, even if that truth cuts you to the core? Share your thoughts. What do you think William said to Harry in that pivotal moment? Do you believe Harry can still return to his true self, or is it already too late? Leave your thoughts below. Because sometimes through someone else's story, we find a clear mirror for our own journey. 1. The unusual detail. No one expected that a seemingly routine administrative document, something typically considered private, could stir up a media storm on both sides of the Atlantic. But ever since Lilibet Diana's birth certificate was leaked, the media hasn't missed a beat. They scrutinized every line, every character on the document. And then they uncovered something almost unbelievable. The legal name of the father, Prince Harry, was not listed in the usual formal manner on the birth record. The information on the certificate was as follows. In the first name field, it read only the Duke of Sussex, and in the last name field, it stated His Royal Highness. To many, this may come across as ceremonial, even regal, but to anyone familiar with law administration or diplomacy, it represents a serious irregularity. A birth certificate is not just an identity document. It is a critical legal foundation for confirming identity, nationality, parental rights, inheritance, mobility, rights, and many other essential legal entitlements. So why was the father's actual name omitted in favor of ceremonial titles? Imagine a similar situation in everyday life. You're a doctor named Nguyen Van Min. When registering your child's birth, you can't list doctor as the first name and MD as the surname. Titles or additions, your legal name is mandatory. The same applies to Harry. His full legal name is Henry Charles Albert David, used in his passport, tax documents, social security number, and across the entire legal identity system. Yet in his daughter's birth record, that name was completely missing. According to official guidance from the UK's General Register Office, GRO noble titles like Duke, Earl, or Baron may be included on documentation, but they cannot replace the legal name nor be used as the official registered name. Even when the registrant is royalty, this rule does not change. Meanwhile, the state of California, where Lilibet was born, also requires the full legal names of parents on birth certificates. So why did they accept such an ambiguous and non-standard format? The most plausible scenario is that someone specifically requested this format. It wasn't the nurses. It wasn't a clerical error. It was one of the two parents, very likely Meghan Markle. And what's notable is that with her extensive experience in entertainment branding and legal processes, Meghan knows precisely how critical such documents are. She's previously filed international trademark claims, navigated dual citizenship procedures, and undoubtedly understands that legal identity cannot be arbitrarily altered. Therefore, the omission of Harry's real name was almost certainly not accidental. In the U.S., birth records are usually drafted by hospital staff shortly after delivery. However, parents have the right to review and request corrections before submission. This means that Harry and Meghan, or at least one of them, reviewed and approved this version. Another detail adds fuel to the speculation on Archie's birth certificate. Their firstborn Harry's information was fully listed. It read, His Royal Highness, Henry Charles Albert David, Duke of Sussex, including both his legal name and title. But for Lilibet, the legal name was entirely removed. That doesn't sound like a casual oversight. It feels like a deliberate, calculated change. What are the legal consequences? Quite a few. Both British and American law require full parental names for passport applications, visa processing, or legal custody recognition. If names are inaccurate or inconsistent with other identity documents, entire legal procedures can be delayed or rejected outright. In fact, Harry reportedly encountered significant difficulties when handling documents for his daughter. For many, this may not be a clerical anomaly, but a strategic maneuver. Meghan, once described by tabloids as a three-dimensional chess player in the royal family, surely knew what she was doing. Omitting her husband's legal name from such a vital record wasn't administrative sloppiness. It resembled a legal move and possibly the opening shot of a long-term strategy. This wasn't Meghan's first headline involving legal documents either. In 2023, during her lawsuit against the Mail on Sunday, she submitted a series of documents and emails showing her deep understanding of legal complexities. That proved she's not just a celebrity reacting emotionally, but a strategic thinker meticulously prepared and skilled at navigating legal gray areas. Unfortunately, it seems Harry didn't fully realize the implications until the consequences had already begun to unfold, and by the time he understood the seriousness of it all, things were already spiraling out of control. 2. A mistake or a calculated legal move. When the media began dissecting the details of Lilibet Diana's birth certificate, the public's initial reaction was a blend of skepticism and surprise. Some believed it was simply a clerical error by hospital staff. Others speculated that Harry and Meghan were trying to project a sense of royalty by deliberately using titles instead of legal names. But once every detail was examined through a legal lens and in the context of the couple's increasingly tense relationship, a more serious theory emerged. This might not have been a mistake at all, but rather a calculated strategic move from the very beginning. The first reason this theory gained traction lies in Meghan's extensive understanding of law and media. Although she is known as a Hollywood actress, Meghan is far from unfamiliar with the legal system. She graduated from Northwestern University, one of the top-ranked schools in the U.S. With a degree in communications and international relations, she worked at the USC Embassy in Argentina and even considered a career in diplomacy or law. These experiences gave her not only a strong grasp of public administration, but also a sharp ability to leverage media and language to her advantage. Clearly, she's not the type to accidentally fill out a form incorrectly. Sources within the royal household have previously stated that Meghan is extremely meticulous when it comes to legal matters. During the negotiations surrounding their 2020 royal exit, dubbed Megxit, it was Meghan who insisted on drafting clear terms regarding titles, finances, and personal branding. Not a single clause was left vague. Therefore, the deliberate omission of Harry's legal name from their daughter's birth certificate is almost certainly not a case of oversight. The issue isn't just that Henry Charles Albert David was left off the document, it's the serious legal consequences that omission might bring. In the U.S., a birth certificate is the legal proof of a child's parentage. If a child is registered without the full legal name of their biological father, it can affect custody rights, inheritance claims, medical consent, and even international travel permissions. Without proper legal listing, Harry could be seen as an unofficial parent in many future legal situations. California family law attorney Jennifer Shapiro told Vanity Fair, "If a person's legal name is not on the birth certificate, then from a legal standpoint, that person isn't considered to have a formal legal relationship with the child unless there are additional documents like a court order or separate guardianship paperwork." This means that in some scenarios, Meghan could have full control over all decisions involving the child, from obtaining a passport and buying insurance to choosing a school, without needing Harry's consent, depending on how strictly the law is interpreted. Some legal experts have even suggested that this might not be a personal move at all, but a form of legal self-protection for the future. In U.S. custody disputes, courts often side with the mother, especially when she is the only parent listed on the birth certificate. If such a case were to arise, Harry might be legally considered the secondary parent and would be at a severe disadvantage if Meghan wished to keep the children in the U.S., while he hoped to bring them to the U.K. In legal circles, this is referred to as asymmetrical precedent setting, the use of seemingly harmless administrative details to quietly build legal leverage for the future. It's a cold, calculated move, but not uncommon in separations involving wealth or public reputation. And tragically, the person being boxed into a corner in this legal chess game is Prince Harry, once sixth in line to the British throne. Even if we set aside the possibility of divorce, one lingering question remains: why did Meghan feel the need to remove Harry's legal name from their child's birth certificate? The British press currently presents two leading theories. The first, this is a move to gradually detach the children from royal influence. By not using Harry's real name, which is inherently tied to royal status, Meghan may be quietly shaping a new identity for the children, one free from the constraints of British ceremonial tradition and symbolism. This aligns with what she and Harry once said in their interview with Oprah, that they wanted their children to live like normal kids in America. The second theory, more concerning, is that Meghan may be intentionally diminishing Harry's legal role in the lives of their children. Removing his name from the birth certificate could be just the beginning. The next steps might involve asset ownership, legal representation, rights medical authority, and eventually decisions over nationality or education. Whatever the cause, one thing is almost certain: Harry was not happy with the situation. Sources close to the couple revealed that he was deeply upset and frustrated upon learning his name was missing from his daughter's birth certificate. At one point, he even reportedly suggested using Spencer, his mother Princess Diana's maiden name, as a replacement. If true, it's a telling sign of a man who feels he is being pushed out of his own family, legally speaking. This story has now gone far beyond a royal family issue. It has become a textbook example of how power can be restructured not through a throne, but through a birth certificate, a line of text, and a missing name. In this chess match, Meghan Markle appears to be one move ahead, and Harry may just be realizing the full cost, a cost not paid in titles alone. 3. The immediate consequences. Right after the controversy surrounding Lilibet, Diana's birth certificate erupted and ignited a fierce public debate. The tangible consequences slowly began to surface, and they were far from trivial. Contrary to the public image of a prince, free to go wherever he wants, do whatever he pleases, Harry found himself entangled in a series of bureaucratic roadblocks that dragged on for months, causing mounting stress, particularly during the process of applying for passports and official identification for his children. The first complication arose when Harry submitted applications for British passports for Archie and Lilibet, an act that should have been straightforward for a royal citizen. Yet the applications were unexpectedly placed on indefinite hold. For weeks, the only response from the passport agency was a vague phrase, "technical issue." Legal experts, upon closer examination, concluded that the real issue stemmed from the need to verify Harry's legal relationship with the children due to discrepancies between the information on the birth certificates and the data stored in the UK's government systems. An anonymous source within the UK Home Office told The Telegraph for any citizen, even a prince, if the information on the birth certificate doesn't match what's in the passport database, such as full legal names, national insurance numbers, or identity credentials, the file is flagged for further verification and placed in processing limbo. In this case, the discrepancy was plainly evident. The delay didn't just stall the passport process, it rendered Harry virtually powerless when it came to traveling with his children, a particularly dangerous position in the event of an emergency. Though the family resides in the United States, their legal ties to the United Kingdom remain intact, and lacking valid travel documents for the children meant Harry had no lawful way to bring them back to his homeland. In what has been described as a desperate move, some sources revealed that Harry once proposed using the surname Spencer, his late mother Princess Diana's maiden name, in the administrative paperwork. It was an unprecedented step, a Prince of the Windsor line attempting to bypass protocol using his maternal lineage, a move widely perceived as both highly irregular and an act of desperation. The idea of using the Spencer name not only raised eyebrows, but also underscored Harry's profound sense of helplessness when confronting basic procedures concerning his own biological children. According to international law, particularly the Hague Convention on the Civil Aspects of International Child Abduction, a parent without documented legal ties cannot unilaterally take a child to another country, even if that country is the parent's own. Throughout this ordeal, media outlets noted that Harry's legal team persistently filed formal inquiries and verification requests with the UK Passport Authority. They even sought access to the expedited 24-hour emergency processing service, a service typically reserved for urgent diplomatic missions, military deployment, or serious medical emergencies. However, even with such emergency channels, they were met with a critical and immovable obstacle: the birth certificates failed to meet identity verification standards. This raises an important question. How could something as seemingly simple as omitting a legal name lead to such severe legal consequences? The answer lies in the fundamental role of a birth certificate. It serves as the cornerstone document upon which all other identity papers are built. If that first brick is laid incorrectly, the entire administrative structure that follows is misaligned. Passports cannot be issued, visas may be denied, health insurance applications get suspended, international school enrollments may be rejected, and most significantly, a father's legal standing could be brought into question. Martin Ellis, an international law expert at the University of Cambridge, commented to The Times when a birth certificate lacks a full legal name or contains identity inconsistencies, the father in this case, Harry doesn't just face bureaucratic delays. He may also be deemed as lacking the legal foundation to make decisions for the child. If a dispute arises, the court could rule that the father has no formal legal attachment to the child. Thus, the consequences Harry faces are not just frustrating or humiliating, they present a real danger of being legally stripped of his status as a father if a dispute were to occur. For the average person, that would already be a tragedy. But for someone who was once a symbol of royalty being erased from the official documents of his own child is a shock that reaches far beyond the personal. It touches on political implications as well. Adding even more tension to the situation, according to leaked information, Harry at one point threatened to demand the release of all internal records and correspondence related to the processing of his case, indicating he suspected the administrative system was operating in a non-transparent manner. This wasn't a mere emotional outburst. It was the determined action of a father fighting to reclaim his role and authority, one document, one form, one legal clause at a time. From what seemed like a small oversight, the omission of a legal name on Lilibet's birth certificate has triggered a terrifying chain reaction: delayed passports, jeopardized custodial rights, and even the legal diminishment of fatherhood itself. This situation not only illustrates the tremendous power of paper in modern life, but also reveals a sobering truth in what once appeared to be a rock-solid royal marriage. Harry may have lost far more than he ever imagined. 4. The power game. If there is anything that outweighs the authority of the throne, it is a signature placed on a legally binding document. Meghan Markle seems to understand this more deeply than anyone. When the consequences of Lilibet's birth certificate began to surface, from Harry's stalled passport applications for his children to the legal battle to reclaim his status as a father, an undeniable truth emerged. This was no longer just about administrative technicalities. It was a hidden power play where every small detail could become the decisive move to tip the scales. In this context, a birth certificate is not merely a declaration document. It serves as the foundational cornerstone of the entire legal administrative system, from passports, nationality, inheritance rights, guardianship, to health insurance, taxation, school registration, immigration, and even custody rights. After a divorce, they all trace back to one origin: the birth certificate. When Harry's name was omitted, skipped, or entered in a way that failed to meet legal standards, he was not only excluded from the system's data, but he also lost the legal grounds to assert his role as a father under the law. And if this was truly a calculated strategy, then it was carried out with chilling precision and remarkable effectiveness. No arguments needed, no court hearings or media showdowns. Just a single line altered on an original document, and the entire game began to shift. Legal experts call it the silent game of paperwork, where seemingly harmless procedures can overturn entire outcomes. According to attorney Rachel Sloan, who has handled numerous cross-border custody disputes in New York, control over a child's initial legal documents is the ultimate leverage in modern family law. You don't need property titles or a court ruling to make decisions. As long as you hold the child's official papers, you can steer the entire legal path of that child's life. In Meghan's case, that control began with how she chose to designate the father on the birth certificate. It was akin to removing a foundational brick from Harry's legal wall, a small act yet powerful enough to destabilize the entire structure. Look at the timeline. Lilibet's birth certificate was finalized in June 2021, just a few months after Meghan's explosive interview with Oprah Winfrey, where she publicly accused the royal family of racism, of dismissing her mental health struggles, and of denying her children royal titles. While the public was still debating whether Archie deserved to be called a prince, Meghan had quietly taken a legal step not to secure a title, but possibly to begin disentangling her children from the legal reach of the Windsor family, starting by not including Harry's full legal name. Some experts believe Meghan was not legally required to list Henry Charles Albert David on the birth certificate, as she didn't need Harry to legitimize custody. In the U.S., if the mother is the default guardian and there is no legal dispute, the father's rights can be merely symbolic. This creates a grim scenario if Harry and Meghan were to separate and Meghan chose to keep the children in the U.S. Harry would have little legal ground to seek custody or return them to the U.K. unless he could prove he had been intentionally excluded from legal records from the outset. For this reason, many experts believe the omission of the father's name was no accident, but a carefully premeditated move designed to weaken Harry's legal authority in the future. A Los Angeles family attorney once said, "In a relationship with imbalanced power, or where there's fear of being overshadowed, later gaining control over the child's paperwork is the first strategic advantage. It's a silent tactic, but devastatingly effective. And reality has borne this out." Not only have administrative processes stalled, but Harry's legal role in his children's lives is steadily fading. When Meghan is the only legal representative on record, and every decision from healthcare and education to international travel must pass through her, Harry is gradually losing control over the lives of the children who carry his blood. Despite still bearing the title of Duke of Sussex, despite his public appearances with regal posture in the modern legal administrative system, Harry is slowly becoming a shadow. Whenever a permission, a license, or a legal validation is needed, he must rely on Meghan's consent, who has cleverly shaped all procedures from the beginning in a way that puts her firmly in control. It must be clearly stated in today's legal system, the courts don't care who you are in history, what lineage you come from, or who you've posed next to in royal portraits. They care about documents, legal identity, and valid records. Symbolic power is worthless without concrete administrative proof, and that's why the birth certificate, seemingly trivial to the public, becomes the sharpest legal weapon in Meghan's hands. No throne, no crown needed. Just one intentionally filled out document and Harry, royal by birth, can be lawfully and coldly pushed out of the sphere of influence. 5. The turning point of awakening. For months after Lilibet's birth certificate was released, Harry maintained complete silence with the media. No comments, no clarifications, not a single rebuttal. Yet what happened behind closed doors told a very different story. According to close sources, Harry gradually came to realize the severity of the situation he was facing, and this awakening struck him with a brutal impact that was hard to accept. At first, he believed it was merely an administrative error, a formatting oversight that could easily be corrected. But then things began to spiral out of control. Documents were inexplicably delayed, his passport applications were rejected, and officials demanded that he verify his identity from scratch. It was at this moment that Harry realized he was no longer recognized as a legal father in the U.S. administrative system. Every document related to his daughter, from healthcare and education to insurance, required the signature of the person listed legally, Meghan Markle. His name in the eyes of the law carried no decisive authority. For someone who once wore the military uniform, who led international humanitarian campaigns, and who walked proudly in national ceremonies having to wait to be reconsidered as a father reduced to a stranger on paper, was a crushing blow to his pride and identity. Harry felt not only emotionally tied to Meghan, but now legally bound by a bureaucratic system entirely outside his control. Sources close to Harry say he couldn't hide his anger during private conversations. One friend recalled him saying, "If my name isn't on my daughter's birth certificate, then what am I, a guest of honor in my own family?" His frustration didn't stop at emotion. Harry took action. He filed requests to access all records related to the birth certificate process. He demanded a review of the form's identification of who authorized them and who provided the information. In U.S. law, this is known as a Freedom of Information Act request, a citizen's right to access how government agencies process data about them. For a former prince to resort to such civilian legal tools was rare, and it underscored the depth of his suspicion and his determination to reassert his role. What threw Harry into deeper confusion was Meghan's refusal to provide a clear explanation for listing a royal title instead of his legal name on the birth certificate. All attempts at dialogue, according to insiders, ended in deadlock. Meghan claimed the designation was appropriate for their royal titles, but couldn't explain why Archie's certificate used Harry's full legal name while Lilibet's did not. This selective silence pushed Harry ever closer to his breaking point. Harry's feeling of being removed from the legal equation wasn't merely emotional, it had legal grounding re-registration requirements in California and the UK. If a birth certificate lacks essential legal details, like the father's full legal name, authorities can demand the entire file be re-registered with proof, mutual consent, and additional legal steps. Under California law amending a birth certificate, post-registration is complex and full of obstacles. Especially if it involves adding a father's name, the party must provide evidence of paternity or obtain a court ruling. This placed Harry, whom the entire world knows to be Lilibet's biological father, in a bizarre paradox, forced to prove something universally accepted just because his name was omitted from the original legal document. The issue is not merely about formality. The heart of it is that Harry began to lose his autonomy. Once the birth certificate, the foundational document, is incorrectly or incompletely filled, every subsequent record operates under this new legal reality. And in that reality, Meghan is the sole legally recognized parent. As for Harry, he retains the title but not the legal rights. From there, another concern emerged if Harry one day wished to take his children to the UK for a holiday, a royal funeral, or even a relocation. What would he need? The answer is cold and sobering: written permission from Meghan. Under international child protection laws and bilateral treaties between the US and the UK, any parent lacking legal recognition or sole custody must obtain consent from the other to take a child under 18 out of the country. This means Meghan holds the key to whether Harry can even travel with his children outside the US. If she refuses, even without explanation, Harry is legally powerless. In the real world, power doesn't lie in royal titles. True power is the final signature on the exit authorization. Gradually, Harry began to understand that without legal protection, his fatherhood would exist only in form. No matter how deeply he loved his children, it wasn't enough. If not recognized on paper, the entire administrative system would not acknowledge him. And Meghan, through deliberate silence, had built a fortress of protection, using the very documents most people often overlook. A close friend of Harry, speaking anonymously to the Sunday Times, shared, "He's not naive, but he truly didn't believe it would go this far. What hurts him the most isn't being cut off from the royal family, it's the feeling of being slowly cut out of his own home." Meanwhile, the media fixated on trivial matters. Was Meghan using the HRH title for her brand? Did Harry still deserve the Duke title after leaving royal duties? While the public debated titles, the real battle raged quietly in registry offices within bureaucratic forms and across lines of legal signatures. And in that battle, Harry is beginning to realize he's no longer the one commanding the board. He's being pushed to the very edge of the game. Just a single omitted name on a birth certificate, seemingly harmless, can be powerful enough to tip the balance of power within a royal family. This is no longer simply an issue of titles. It has become a legal matter, a question of the right to be a father and a battle for control. In your opinion, was this merely an unintentional oversight or a calculated move by Meghan from the very beginning? Share your thoughts in the comment section below. If this video helped you see things from a new perspective, don't forget to hit like, share it, and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss other stories. Those never-before-revealed truths behind the palace doors. See you in the next video.